this obsession with representation as if somehow that's what the problem was. The problem has always been results. We're not getting results for our community. If you're a Democrat, you've failed our people. If you're a Republican, you've failed our people. And the best way that you can be most successful as a politician, here you go, write this down. Here's your free advice. Have the courage to challenge your own party's orthodoxy on behalf of your community, on behalf of your family, on behalf of your voter base. Can you do that? Because not until then will we see change. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Latino Vote podcast, where Mike Madrid is flying solo this week. Solo, I'm about to hit the ground because my good man Chuck Rocha is out gallivanting around the world as he does. Our best friend and redneck Mexican is, I think, on some other world tour. Might be not as exotic a place as he's been going in the past few weeks or months. This is not an African safari or on the Iberian Peninsula or somewhere in Latin America or the Galapagos Islands. He's saying goodbye to a good dear friend of his in Texas and wanted to give him some space to do some healing and somebody very important in his life in the labor movement. And I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit about the life and times of his dear friend who helped kind of guide him through kind of a younger phase of his life, not just professionally, but personally. In the short bits I've heard of this man, he sounded like a pretty extraordinary individual. So you get just me today. And if we haven't lost most of our listeners, I'm sure we probably have more people joining than not, Chuck. Sorry. There's a couple things I want to talk about today, some really important things. And I want to really focus on what I think is going to be this really pivotal moment that we just experienced over the course of the past few weeks. I know it's been a really long, brutal year, and we still got 3 years of this. And there's a lot of debate going on as to whether or not we're going to be strong enough as a nation to make it through the next few years. You can put me solidly in the camp of, yes, we're going to make it. Yes, we will be forever changed. Yes, the contours of Americanness, American identity, and American understanding are going to be something very, very different in the post-Trump era. I don't think Trumpism is just going to go away. Like we're going to wake up, from a big tequila bender the next day and be like, whoa, that was some crazy wild ass shit. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't. I think that we are forever going to look back at the Trump era, not in a good way, in a really dark, ugly, awful way, and realize the darker angels of our nature. And I think it's going to really provide a different understanding of the mythology of what America is, who we are, who we have always told ourselves that we were, but perhaps most importantly, what this means for the racial dialogue in this country. And I have to say, as somebody who has been a student and observer of ethnic and racial politics for 35 years, I have not predicted any of the backlash and the discourse between the different groups in this country that constitute what our pluralistic society is. And I want to talk about that a little bit today because Bad Bunny's appearance at the Super Bowl marked a really significant inflection point. And yes, it is true. It is true that we have had Latino artists headline the Super Bowl before. We have Shakira, Jennifer Lopez, Gloria Estefan, Ricky Martin. This is not his first, rodeo. He's made, small appearances before, but this was the only time we've seen an artist appear and present and sing exclusively in Spanish, with his entire brand being in a separate language. And the battle over English only and Spanish and what that has meant has been a feature of my entire career, especially in the GOP. And it's not only not going away, it's getting more intense. But here's the thing. Those that are driven most by this English only and this great replacement theory and the invaders are coming ideology are getting to be a smaller and smaller share of our population. And like a dwarf star, it's going to get more and more intense and more heated and angry as it gets smaller and smaller until it just explodes. That's the lesson of places like California, where the GOP, animated almost entirely by racial animus from my earliest days in the early 1990s, late 80s, is really just a regional, marginalized, irrelevant faction of our political life in the state. And all of the mistakes that the Republicans made in the 1990s, they're making them by tenfold nationally. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time exploring what that means, because it's going to have very, very significant impacts that are going to begin in the 2026 midterm elections. And I think they're going to last for the better part of a generation. But if you're a Democrat and think that that's good news, I'm going to disabuse you of that notion. Because unlike California, we already have overwhelming data and 10 years of election results saying it ain't going to turn out exactly the way California turned out. So even though the catalyst may be exactly the same as the Prop 187 era in California in 1994 or SB 1070 in the first decade of this of century in Arizona with Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and the Show Me Your Papers bill that came through there, or any of these really historically ugly eras in our recent history, while that may be a catalyst to create a Latino voting bloc, and that's what it is, by the way, in these instances, it's never been lasting. It's never been lasting. And the reason why it has not been lasting is because the Democratic Party has never united the community around a common agenda. It has been, I was going to say really good at, but I don't know if that's even true. The data doesn't even show that we're getting good turnout numbers for our community by simply being anti-Republican. That's the lesson for you Democrats out there. You need to wake up and realize that. So much, and there's a lot of elected officials. I spoke to a couple last night who came up to a big Sacramento event, and I get calls and direct messages and texts and people reaching out all the time. Incidentally, reach out to us, both Chuck and I, whether we know you or not. Give us your feedback. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. We do listen to all of this. We do. This does help inform and guide the show. And when we do get reached out to by you guys, Chuck and I do share this information. So if we have not heard from you, you can comment. If you're watching on YouTube, you can send us direct messages. You can reach out to us in a myriad of ways. We are both extremely responsive. But my point is this: unless and until Democrats starts to define a pro-growth, aspirational working class agenda, we're just playing the same damn game we've been playing for a generation. And because it doesn't fix itself, it leaves the community more vulnerable the next time this anti-immigrant sentiment gets whipped up. If you don't fix the core problem, it animates the crazies on the right. It pisses off a wide swath of the Latino community. These bullshit arguments that Latinos are more machismo and racist than every other group in the world is just complete horseshit. But we do leave ourselves and our community open to that. And look, I can't help myself but start blaming our own community for that. And I'm not going to be quiet about that. That's a lack of leadership on our part. That's a failing of our Latino leaders to say, this economic opportunity that I came for, that my parents came for, that my grandparents came for, is not here in America in the way that it should be, the way that it has been for immigrant groups since day one in this country for the past 250 years. That's our fault. If we keep looking for the system to fix this, if we keep looking for the parties to do right by us, that's never going to happen, man. That has never happened in history. And I don't know if that's a part of our culture where we're looking to others to take care of the problem for us and to guide us. I don't know whether it comes from a servant's heart where we don't view ourselves as being worthy of it. But boy, we're missing the ball and being good stewards of government when it comes to allowing for greater opportunity for our people. That's undeniable. This next chapter of Latino politics, and that's what I'm going to start calling it, like I believe very, very firmly, certainly in the Southwest, that from the era of the 1990s, 1992, 1994 to 2022, 2024, that 30-year era is a generation in Latino politics that is the post-Prop 187 era. It was built on the belief that demographics is destiny. It was defined by the Obama presidency under the conception and realization and belief. I shouldn't say realization, the belief, the false belief that all non-white people are somehow born Democrats. You come out of the womb as a Democrat. And that 75, 80% of Latinos would vote for Democrats just because that's what non-white people do. Guys, that was wrong. It's never been correct. And it was promulgated largely by a lot of Latino consultants in the Obama administration that were looking for leverage in that administration. They wanted to be a part of this multiracial coalition. So this false ideology that somehow brown people are naturally born Democrats becomes a certainty in the minds of Democratic political consultants, politicians, and activists. But meanwhile, our voters were never bought into that, ever, by the way. And I can show you, going back to Prop 187, when 35% of Latinos voted for Proposition 187, voted for Pete Wilson in 1994. When Latinos in California for the past 20 years have voted against affirmative action. We are not a race-based ethnic minority. We are not. That doesn't mean that we don't have sensitivities to that. And this is one of those moments. 2026 is one of those moments. Trump 2.0 is one of those moments. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But we have to start refusing to believe that somehow we are part of the construct of the American understanding that race is all black and white. It's not. It's not. It's provably not. Culture is changing if race isn't. If our racial understanding isn't changing as fast as it needs to, our cultural understanding is moving very quickly. You see, Bad Bunny didn't just ask for a seat at the table. He came in last weekend and he flipped that table over and he brought in a bigger one. This new America is emerging with a more expansive view of patriotism, love of country, and American identity. And it's coming. It's here. It's here. Whether you like it or not, it's here. And that's going to challenge all that we know about who we as Latinos are, and perhaps more importantly, who we as Americans are. And so the burden for Latinos is going to be carrying that cross. We've got to learn to be better stewards of government for our own people, let alone for everybody else. We're not even at the phase where we're fighting for our people in the right way. The numbers of Latino elected officials are exploding. But all of the social economic indicators are moving in the wrong direction. And unfortunately, it's happening in places like California to a greater degree than anywhere else, where there are more Latino legislators than anywhere else, but probably New Mexico. Housing is worse here. The income inequality problem is worse here. Childhood poverty is worse here. 70% of Latino children who graduate from high school need remedial math and English in our Cal State University system. 50% of our kids are on Medi-Cal, Medicaid, a poverty metric. That's not happening with the shrinking share of white folks. It's not happening with other Asian Pacific Islander immigrant groups. It's happening to Latinos. So if you believe in government, if you're a Democrat and you believe in government, that government has a role in making people's lives better, what gives? How do you explain that? How do you explain that the more Latino representation we get, the worse Latinos are off economically, socially, from an educational perspective? That the prison pipeline from our high schools is more Latino than any other race or ethnicity? As a percentage, I don't just mean the raw numbers. A lot of our younger people are, under 18. So you go, well, of course, naturally, there's more of us. So naturally, there's going to be more. I mean, there's a percentage. There's no excuse for that, especially when I'm not hearing this passionate fight against a system that is promulgating this. We created this. And the good news is, if there's any good news, the good news is because we created it, we can fix it. But damn it, they're not going to fix it for us. Latinos are going to have to challenge the system. If you're a Democrat and you're watching Latinos in the Republican Party going, how can you put up with that? Where's your self-respect? Why aren't you standing up to these leaders in your party that are doing these awful things? As my nana used to say, if you're pointing a finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. So I want you to look at those 3 fingers and I want you to ask yourself the same question. How can I, as an elected official, tolerate putting up with a failing education system? How was I, as a Latino, keep putting up in the Democratic Party a system that exacerbates the income inequality divide? How do I, as a Latino representative, as somebody entrusted with the sacred trust of the people of Latinos in my community, in my district, in my region, in my school board, whatever it is you hold, how can I look and say housing is a pipe dream now? It's not a real thing anymore, the way it was for every other generation of Americans. Just as we're becoming the largest ethnic majority, that dream is vanishing. And somehow we shrug our shoulders and just say, yeah, that's too bad. That's unfortunate. We'll just have to make it work. How is that any different? How is it any different than when you look across the aisle and say, how can you put up with that? How can you tolerate that? How can you accept that from the leadership in your own party? And look, you guys should know me well enough by now. I don't care much about what color jersey you wear, whether it's red or blue, or you're a Dem or a Reap, or a progressive or a conservative, or a right winger or a left winger. It's all so, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make me a centrist. I don't believe there's an American center. I believe there's an American right, an American wrong. I believe that our problems are so damn obvious and they're so fixable. I'm frustrated by it. It's why Chuck and I talk about these issues, constantly throughout the week and share some of those ideas on this show. You are the help we need. And it's going to take courage on your part to stand up to your party. If you still believe in this party bullshit anyway, if you're still going to buy the illusion that the parties are actually interested in doing something to help people, if you're still deluded enough to believe that, well, you've got to also believe that you can do something about that. Not only you can, you should, that you have an obligation to do it. And that if you're in the Democratic Party, you're complicit in this. As much as if you're in the Republican Party in the Trump era, you're complicit in this. You guys have all heard me say many, many times, whenever I poll Democrats, the moderates in the Democratic Party are Latinos. Whenever I poll just Republicans, the moderates in the Republican Party are Latinos. And it's not just that we're moderate, because like I said, I don't believe in a center. I don't even believe in a right-left spectrum anymore. We haven't been talking about the size of government a long time. What a Democrat was 15 years ago is not what a Democrat is today. And certainly the same can be said about Republicans. But what I can say about Latinos is we are by far the more reasonable group of any other race or ethnicity in America today. We do support strong borders. We do, quantifiably. I can show you that. But we also support a pathway to citizenship more than anybody else. And guess what? That's exactly the solution to the problem that we're in. Yes, we are the swingiest vote in America. We are probably what I would argue is the last true swing vote in America. At a time when everyone's talking about democracy failing and everyone's doubling and tripling and quadrupling down in their own partisan foxhole and just yelling louder into their own echo chamber about how pissed off they are about the world. Both sides, by the way. It's Latino voters who are going, I think there's problems with both of you, and I'm not going to reward either of you guys. And so they will leave Biden and Harris and they will vote for Trump, Vance. But just months later, they will do the exact opposite if they don't see things getting better. And if you're standing on the sidelines and castigating our people and blaming our people for voting out of an act of desperation, then shame on you, because that's your failing as an activist, as a citizen, and certainly as an elected official. Shame on you. Shame on you. You should be absolutely proud of the fact that our people aren't buying into the bullshit. That we're not casting our lots with either side when we both know that no difference is being made regardless of whether it's a Republican or Democrat in office. How dare you say that, Mike Madrid? How dare you say that? Okay, let's walk through that a little bit. We all know that Barack Obama, who many listeners on the show will recall was called the deporter-in-chief. Barack Obama at this point in his administration had deported far, far, far more Latinos than Donald Trump. Yes, it's 100% true he did it in a more humane way. Yes, it's true he wasn't shooting people in the face with masked thugs. And yes, it's true that he wasn't, I was about to say tearing children from his mother's arms, but he was absolutely doing that. But it is absolutely true he was not violating due process and arresting American citizens and setting up these huge, massive concentration camps to lock people in, throw them away, or send them to foreign prisons. That's all true. But take a step back. Is that really the metric for success? Well, Barack Obama was better because he wasn't doing this. That's how you get to this. You buy into the belief that rather than solving the problem, that what Barack Obama was doing was somehow okay simply because he's a Democrat. But let me be really clear here. Barack Obama was not trying to meaningfully solve the immigration problem. You know how I know? Nobody on this show can show me the bill. Show me the legislation. Show me his ideas. Show me once. Anybody who was there knows that he made a conscious decision to focus on healthcare over immigration reform. Is that bad? I think it's bad, but I don't think he's bad for doing that. It was a political calculation. But I'm not going to delude myself into somehow believing that he's some sort of saint. He's not. The community, our community, listeners on this channel were probably out there marching and protesting and saying, this guy's the deporter in chief. How convenient to forget that. There was not a plan to resolve this. The plan was to deport. That was the plan for the Obama administration. Is it as bad as Trump? No. But stop thinking that our voters are somehow not going to see it for what they know it's to be. Stop asking them not to believe their own eyes. We were all there. We all experienced it. We all saw it. What we didn't see was a plan. And we never saw that. And then we're shocked, clutching the pearls around our neck when we see Latinos in polling start to say immigration is a problem, that the borders are out of control, because the reaction to go from Barack Obama's lack of a plan was to go to Joe Biden's complete lack of a plan, a complete collapse. Come on. It's intellectually lazy, and it's frankly, it's offensive to Latino voters to act like they don't know what's going on. We all knew what was going on, the same way we all know what's going on right now, which is why you're seeing Latino voters react the way that they are. The real shame in all this is being shocked by it, because it's so damn predictable. What the hell do you think voters are gonna do? How do you think voters are gonna react? Latinos are moving back and forth between these two parties that are failing them, and we act like it's their fault. It's not their fault. It's the fault of the parties. In fact, we're the one virtuous group remaining in this democracy left because we have the cojones, we have the balls, we've got the guts to say, screw you guys. Screw you, Democrats. You're not making my life more affordable. You're not making things better. I know what I'm going to get if I keep voting for you, because it's been happening for 30 years. Shame on me if I don't make the adjustment. And within months, doing the exact same thing to the Republicans. Hey, you said you were going to do this. Hey, you didn't do this. Hey, you know what? Screw you. In New York City, in New Jersey, in Virginia, in California, in Miami, in the Texas Special, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Venezuelans, Colombians, Cubans, Mexican Americans, all voting the same, all rejecting the nonsense that they're seeing going on in Washington, D.C. right now. And if you believe that the message is, well, see, it's just all Trump overreach and this is what's going on, that's why they're all coming home, I would say, yeah, that's probably right for the moment. For the moment, that's what it is. But if you think that this is a permanent return to the Democratic Party, man, you're smoking funny stuff. That's not what's happening. How much more evidence do you need? And how much more are you going to be part of the problem by denying that or championing that or rallying that? Especially if you're a Democratic consultant who makes money doing this, or a Democratic partisan who thinks that there's advantage to be had in this. I'm going to honor the Latino Republicans who are complicit in this shit. Watching these Cuban Republicans in Florida dance on a hot stove when it's, their people now that are finally getting deported is, it's just poetic justice. I hate to say that because I know families' lives are suffering, but the Cubans, my God, every time you think that they can't get more Cuban, they do. And if you're offended by that, good, because you all ought to be speaking out. If you're a Cuban who disagrees with what I'm saying, then you ought to be speaking out to your representatives for putting up with this bullshit, for promulgating it, for enabling it, for giving this ugliness a brown face. So yeah, I'm pissed off at both sides because the solution is so damn simple, which is start developing an agenda that all the math, all the science, all the polling data, all the precinct data, all the vote history is saying. It's not that difficult. You're both just afraid, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're afraid of challenging your own party's leadership. That's the moment. That's the chapter that has to come to an end now. We got to stop focusing on representation, which was the main focus of the Prop 187 generation. All of these people who came of age after marching in the 1990s, mid-1990s, who are now state legislators or mayors or running for statewide office or in school boards all over the country. I'm not just talking about California. I'm not just talking about Arizona. Not even just talking about Texas. I'm talking about all of it. All of it. It's been 30 years. Y'all have kids now that are old enough to vote. You've got kids that are running for office now. They're of a different generation. You know what they want? They want results, guys. This obsession with representation as if somehow that's what the problem was. The problem has always been results. We're not getting results for our community. If you're a Democrat, you've failed our people. If you're a Republican, you've failed our people. And the best way that you can be most successful as a politician, here you go, write this down. Here's your free advice. Have the courage to challenge your own party's orthodoxy on behalf of your community, on behalf of your family, on behalf of your voter base. Can you do that? Because not until then will we see change. Because so many people, so many careers have been defined by towing the respective party lines, that what you've done is you've enabled your parties to do the wrong thing, and you've provided a Latino veneer around it, where the Latinos stand up at the press conference behind the white progressive or white conservative politician who's announcing a bill or announcing a policy proposal, and you stand there back there shaking your head and clapping. And all he does or she does is point back to you and say, see, even the brown people agree with me. You know what I'm talking about. You all know what I'm talking about. I've been watching it for 30 years. How many of you stood up there and talked about a Latino economic agenda with white progressives or white conservatives behind you nodding their heads and clapping softly and playing that role? Huh? You ever seen that? I've never seen that. And I watch all these things on both sides, and I've been watching it for 3.5 decades. I never, ever, ever seen Latino Republicans standing up at a presser and saying, hey, we've gone too far on the immigration stuff. Hey, we need a more humane immigration policy. Hey, we need a pathway to citizenship. Hey, yes, we need stronger borders, but Latinos and immigrants are our friends and our allies, and they are the future of this country. Last time I heard that was Reagan Bush. That's when I became a Republican, okay? I've never seen a Latino Republican stand up and say that with white Republicans, in the golf clapping behind him. I've never seen that. I've never seen that. If I could be wrong, show me the clip. I want to see it. Maybe I was sick that day. And conversely, I've never seen Latino Democrats go to a press conference and say, you know what? Our schools aren't serving our kids. Our schools are broken. You know what? We need to dramatically increase our housing stock. We need to really build a hell of a lot more homes. You know what? We're crushing our blue-collar manufacturing jobs. And this environmental movement is killing us. It's driving us into grinding poverty. Where are Latinos at on that press conference with the white progressives right behind them giving their golf clap? I must have missed that day too. I must have been sick on that day. So if you can show me those clips, show them to me. And I'm serious about that because I'm sure it's probably happened somewhere. But the fact that it's not happening every day, that's the damning indictment. So if you've got a clip, and I'm sure somebody out there is driving, listening to Mike Madrid, getting pissed off and going, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I remember this press conference we did back in 2013 when we stood out on the Capitol steps and blah, blah, blah. Okay, show it to me. Show me your best 2013 clips. Send it in because I want to see more of it. If you're so proud of it, why isn't it happening every day? Why are we accepting the fact that poverty is normal? Why have we normalized poverty? You hear from the left, why are we normalizing Trump and Trumpism? How about people from the right castigating the Democratic Party? Why have we normalized poverty for Latino people? Why have we normalized a blue collar life with no upward aspirational movement? Why have we normalized that? Why is the prison pipeline been normalized for our community? Why is it normal when 70% of our kids are graduating from California high schools and need remedial English and math training? Our kids can't read. Why is that normal? Where is the outrage on that? If you want to defeat Trumpism, that's how you defeat it. You fix it. And the great irony is the opening politically. Let's just talk politically. Let's just say you aren't passionately moved enough to fight on behalf of our community. Let's say that's true. I don't believe that, but let's say that's true. Let's say all you care about is the politics. There's no bigger political advantage than giving voice to the largest ethnic swing voting bloc in the country at this moment in time. You want to be a national leader? That's how you do it. Give it voice, be passionate about it, and criticize both parties for it. Because that's where power is at. It's not by kissing up or sucking up to the party leaders and the donors on the left or the party leaders or the donors on the right. They don't care about you. If you think so, I'm going to ask all my Latino for Trump friends, how's that working out for you? They don't care about you. They don't care about Latino empowerment, man. You're window dressing. Both parties, guys. If you're laughing as a Democrat going, yeah, those stupid Latino Republicans, man, you need to look in the rearview mirror. If you're driving, you need to look in your vanity mirror right now. If you're listening to Mike Madrid, where you're getting ready, you're having your first cup of coffee. And if it scares you, good. Chuck would say, that's a scary first thing to do in the morning. Good. I want it to scare you. Wake you up a little bit. I want you to think about this as you're going throughout your day, just a couple of times. I want you to hear Mike Madrid's voice in your ears when you can be in a meeting making a difference and saying, why are we trying to reform these systems that are clearly demonstrably broken and not working in the first place? Whether you're on a school board or a city council or a county board, or whether you're in the state legislature or you're in the Congress. We've got listeners from all of those groups listening to what I'm saying right now. What are you doing right now to ameliorate the system, not fix or reform or patch up these broken bills and this antiquated system that is demonstrably not working? What are you doing? What are you doing with your career? What are you doing with your life? You want some political advice from Mike Madrid, some free advice? Here you go. Fix the system. Spend the capital doing it. Oh, the teachers union's not going to like you wanting more accountability? Good. Oh, the white nativists in the Republican Party don't want you talking about being humane? Good. The American people in our community know that that's the problem. What they also know is that no one's got the courage to stand up and say the emperor has no clothes. It's not a right or left or red or Democrat debate. It's a systemic problem, man. And if you feel like you're waking up in the middle of the night or going, my God, does the world feel like it's falling apart? It is. It is. That's the moment that you need to stand up and fill the void. Like, how much more evidence do you need? We keep looking for people, looking over our right shoulder, looking over our left shoulder, going, who's going to fix this? If you're holding office and you're asking yourself that question, if the world feels that it's out of control, you're not doing your job, man. You were hired to fix that job. You are the one that's hired to make sure that this is not falling apart. And you can't just keep patching up a falling fence. At a certain point, you got to replace the whole damn fence. That's what this next era of Latino politics needs to be. Fixing the whole damn fence, not patching up something that's weathered and broken down and probably didn't really work that much anyway. Representation isn't enough, and it never has been. It's why our people, our voters, will vote for Bernie Sanders. They'll vote for Donald Trump. We don't need a Latino candidate. We don't need a Latino candidate to be the rallying cry for our community if our leadership won't do it. And good for us. Good for us. Because when I look at black and white voters, black and white non-college educated voters, they're not moving. You've heard me say this on the show before. The special election in Texas is even more evidence of this just a week ago. Every one of the races that we saw in 2025 and 2026 with these massive Latino shifts are overwhelmingly Latino voters rejecting both sides. That couldn't be clearer. Who's not moving are black and white voters. They're moving to a measurable but very, very small degree. And they're the ones going, I don't understand why these things are broken and nothing ever gets fixed. Let me just get angrier and more racially polarized, and I'll just keep doing the same thing my people have been doing for 150 years and wonder why nothing gets better. Don't let our people fall into that trap, guys. Don't allow that to be the new norm for Latino politics. If this generation allows that to happen, then shame on us. We have the opportunity to redefine the country, not just our communities, the entire United States of America. This is the last chapter of my book. This is the hope of the whole thing, is if every one of you that's a Democrat starts deciding, you know what, I'm going to be an advocate for the Latino community first and a Democrat second. And if every Republican says, you know what, I'm going to be a Latino first and a Republican second, that's when change happens. It's not by yelling about the Republicans louder. It's not by yelling about the Democrats louder. Change comes when you're willing to stand up to your own party and force those changes. That's how change happens. It's not by lobbing another bigger grenade at the Republicans and blowing them up. All that does is make them dig in even deeper. And I'm not saying anything I haven't done in my own career. I was a co-founder of the Lincoln Project. That's why it had the impact. Is somebody was finally able, 8 of us were finally willing, able, and passionate about standing up and fighting against what was wrong. I want to see that same fight from Democrats about our kids not being able to read, about 70% of our kids not being able to do math when they graduate from high school. Remedial math, guys. Like, if that's not the line, what is it? You can't blame Republicans for that. That's on you. That's on you. And how long are you going to put up with that? How do you want to be that Latino leader that was the elected official of that era that oversaw this generation slipping further and further behind? It's like it's some sort of sense of pride. Maybe they'll name a park after me. For what? Because housing got worse? Because our kids couldn't read more? Because healthcare became further out of reach? Because the income inequality got worse? You want something named after you because of that? I don't get it, man. I don't. With that, here's where Chuck always laughs. With that, I do want to end this on after this rant and this berating. I am going to say there is a very big sign of hope, even though it's not coming from our political leadership at this moment in time. The biggest sign of hope is our people are voting with their feet. Latino voters moving and punishing the partisans on both sides, the politicians on both sides for their failures, that's a sign of hope, not just for us, by the way, for the country. Because I know it's been so long, it's been longer than anybody's living memory, but Latino voters are voting the way you're supposed to vote in a democracy like ours. When the partisans and the politicians fail, you vote against them. You don't double down like black voters do. You don't triple down like white voters do. You punish both. You don't care if they're Republicans or Democrats. You say you failed. You're fired. You're fired. We need more of that. And the great sign of hope is our voters are doing that. They're voting with their feet, which is why both parties are nervous. And it's why Latinos in both parties are more nervous than everybody else, is because we know it in our hearts. We see it in our families. If you're a Latino Republican, you have Latino Democrats in your family. If you're a Latino Democrat, you have Latino voters, Latino Republicans in your family. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay? That's the hope of the country. And what our community, our real people, not the people that listen to the Latino Vote podcast, not the people that watch MSNBC, which I'll be on later today with the same message, so tune in. But what our people are saying is, ya basta, enough of both of you, enough with this. things aren't getting better. It's not enough to just be against something. What are you for? And nobody can articulate what they're for except I'm for this red banner or this blue banner. That's a failing. That's a failing of the elites in our community to be responsible stewards of this government and responsible advocates for our community. So I want you all to think about that. We'll have Chuck back next week, regular scheduled time. Again, I'll be on MSN Now, talking about everything from the Obama era to now. You'll hear a lot of the same stuff. Tune in then. We'll post clips. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll talk again soon.